Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is my channel, Secret Life of a Seamstress, where I love to talk all about sewing and making things. I hope you're all doing really well today and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a tutorial for how to sew a makeup or cosmetics bag. So this is a lovely roomy makeup or cosmetics bag. As you can see, the bag has a zipper closure to the top. It's fully lined inside. And it's finished so that it can stand alone as well. If you are a beginner with a little bit of sewing already under your belt, you'll probably really enjoy making this bag up. It does include inserting a zipper, which can feel scary at first, but don't worry, I will be taking you through the process step by step. This is the pattern piece that we're going to be using to make today's cosmetic bag. This template is available over on my blog and I will link exactly where you can find it down below. You'll just need to print it out on a regular printer and all the instructions for how to do that will be on my blog. You'll need 2 pieces of fabric that measure approximately 45 centimetres by 60 centimetres. So you're going to need 2 pieces of that size for the outer pieces of your bag, and then you'll also need 2 pieces of the same amount of fabric for the lining of your bag as well. If you wanted to make your bag more of a wash bag, you can actually use waterproof fabric. So as well as your outer and lining pieces for the bag, another thing that I like to use is some fusible fleece. And this is what gives it its lovely sort of puffy structure and allows it to be freestanding. So this is what fusible fleece looks like. I bought mine from Amazon. It's really widely available and I will link this fabric down below. You don't have to use fusible fleece if you don't have any and you don't want to buy any. It's perfectly fine to make this bag without it. It just won't have quite as much structure. As well as your main fabrics, you'll also need a 12-inch regular zipper. Once you've downloaded and printed off your pattern pieces, you'll need to cut out your 2 main fabric pieces, 2 lining pieces, and then 2 fusible interfacing pieces if you are going to be using it. So you need to place the long edge of the pattern piece against the fold of your fabric. So we will be cutting out all of our pieces on the fold. So I'm all cut out and ready to go now. I have my 2 main fabric pieces, my 2 lining pieces, and my 2 pieces of fusible fleece. I also have my zipper on hand ready to go. So I'm going to be personalising my bag today. You don't have to do this, but it is a nice touch if you want to add something special to a gift, if you are making the bag for a gift. If you are going to be personalising your bag or adding any kind of embellishment to the front of the bag, you want to make sure that you sew that on before you go any further. The first thing we need to do is, if you are attaching fusible fleece to the main pieces of fabric for your bag, you need to fuse those now. So the way that you do that is that you put your main fabric piece right side down. You've got the wrong side of your fabric facing up. You then want to place the side of your fusible fleece that has the glue dots on it. You should be able to feel it feels rough and bumpy. You want that side facing against the wrong side of your fabric. So just make sure that your edges are lined up neatly. You then want to take that over to the ironing board and just fuse your fabric to your fleece. So that's my fusible fleece all attached nicely, and now my main pieces feel nice and sturdy and puffy. Now it's time to insert our zipper. So you want to take your zipper and open it out. You then want to place one side of your zipper tape, right sides together, against one of the pieces of the main fabric of your bag. Make sure that you have 1 centimetre roughly each side of where your zipper starts and stops, because you don't want your zipper pull to be right up against your fabric. You need to leave 1 centimetre seam allowance here. You can see that my zipper stop is here, and then my zipper tape just extends slightly past the edge of my fabric. We also have the silver stopper at the top here, about 1 centimetre in from the edge of my bag piece. Once you're happy with that placement, you just need to pin your zipper tape in place. You can now hand tack this zipper tape in place before you take it to the sewing machine. That will just make it slightly easier to sew. If you're happy to go ahead, we need to take this over to the sewing machine now and sew the zipper tape in place around a 1 centimetre seam allowance and getting as close to the zipper teeth as you can, but making sure that you don't sew over them. So using a zipper foot can be helpful here if you do have one. So that's one side of my zipper nicely sewn in place. So we want now to attach the back of our main fabric pieces to this side of the zipper. So take the back piece of your main fabric and place that right sides together again against the edge of your zipper tape. So you will be putting your back piece on top of your front piece. The important thing to remember is that your right sides are always together. It's also helpful to just make sure that your sides are lined up like this so that you make sure that you start your back piece at the same point on the zipper tape as you did with the front piece. I open out my zipper tape to pin that one in place now. When you're happy that everything's pinned in place nicely, we need to take this back over to the sewing machine and sew this side in place in the same way as we did with the first side. Okay, so that's my zipper neatly sewn into my top fabric pieces. Once you've done those 2 lines of stitching, just close your zipper and open it again. Just make sure that you haven't accidentally sewn over any of the zipper teeth. If you have, it's fine, don't panic. Just undo that section and sew it again a little bit more further away from the zipper tape. So next we need to attach our lining pieces to the zipper tape. This part can feel slightly fiddly. What you want to do is take one of your lining pieces and place it face down on top of your main fabric piece. Your right sides should be together. You just need to make sure that, again, you're lining up the edges of your bag like this so that you're starting and stopping at the same point. That will keep everything neat and tidy. So once you're happy everything is in place, you need to pin your lining piece right sides together along the top of your bag. This time your zipper tape will be sandwiched in between your lining piece and your main fabric piece. So you just want to make sure that everything is neatly pinned together. Once you're happy, again, you can take this over to the sewing machine and sew a line of stitching 1 centimetre from the edge of the fabric. Just make sure, again, that you're not sewing over any zipper teeth and that they are right out the way when you're sewing. Your bag should now be looking like this. So you've got lining piece, main piece, and they're both right sides out. Then the last step in our zipper insertion is now to do exactly the same with the other side of the bag. So just take your remaining lining piece and place it face down, right sides together on top of the other side of your bag. Pin it in place as we just have and take that to the sewing machine and sew that side as well. So that is our zipper inserted now. So again, just pull your zipper closed just to make sure that everything is in place and that you haven't accidentally sewn over any zipper teeth. Your bag should now look like this. So you've got your main pieces spread out like this, like a little butterfly. And then if you turn your bag the other way out, you should have your lining pieces right sides out like that. So what I like to do next is actually take this over to the ironing board. Just give everything a nice press away from the zipper. Make sure that you're not ironing over any plastic zipper teeth because they can melt. So just take a little bit of care there, but press your fabric away from the zipper. And then what I tend to do, because I like everything to be nice and neat, is run a line of top stitching along the top of the bag here, just to keep the lining and the main fabric in place, so that when you are using the bag, the lining doesn't ride up and get caught in the zipper. So I'm going to do that now. So that's my top stitching all done. And believe it or not, that is the hardest bit done now. I always feel as though the zipper is the hardest part of sewing this bag. So you'll be pleased to know that we are on the home stretch now. So the next thing we need to do is take our bag and place the 2 bottom edges right sides together. If you're using fusible fleece, you will have your fleece facing outwards for this part. We then need to pin the 2 bottom edges together. And then you want to make sure that your lining pieces are right sides together. Line up the bottom edge in the same way and pin that bottom edge together. Now with the lining bottom edge, we need to leave a gap in this seam here. because that's what we're going to use to turn the bag through later on. We need to leave a gap of around 4 inches. We now want to take this over to the sewing machine and sew both of our bottom edges closed. So with the lining piece, you want to start and stop at the pins where you've marked your gap. And just make sure that once you've stopped sewing, this part of the bag is still open, and you'll be able to use that to turn the bag through later on. Okay, once that's all sewn, the next thing we need to sew is the side seams of our bag. So we want to pin together from the bottom of the lining piece right through to the bottom of the main fabric piece. I like to start in the middle of my bag, just make sure that the 2 raw edges of my zipper tape are meeting together, right sides together. I then pop a pin in there just to make sure that zipper tape stays nice and neatly in place, so that when we turn it through, our zipper should fall right in the center of our bag and it shouldn't be looking all wonky. Once you've pinned the zipper teeth in place, you just need to go ahead and pin right from one end of the side seam to the other. Before we sew our side seams together, we just need to make sure that the zipper tape inside of our bag is open. So you want to open your zip to around halfway. And again, this will just help us with turning the bag through later on. So once you've done one side, just turn the bag around, pin your zipper tape together, right sides together, and continue to pin along the other side as well. Once that's all pinned in place, we need to take this over to the sewing machine and again just sew this seam at a 1 centimetre seam allowance. So when you get to this point in the middle where your zipper is, just pop your sewing machine needle down and just pivot your sewing machine slightly just to get that angle. You want to sew up to here, pivot, and then sew down at this edge here. So the almost last thing we need to do in the construction of our bag is to deal with these little corners here. So you might be wondering how this is going to work. So what we want to do with these is to open out these funny little bottom edges of the bag and bring the edges together. So you've got the right sides of your fabric facing together, you've got your seams meeting in the middle, and we want to pin this edge closed. So just make sure that your seams are open. And we can just pop a pin in the middle here. If you do have any clips, you might find it easier to just clip this. But for me today, I'm going to make my life difficult and use pins. I want to just make sure that the seams are meeting together, your edges are together, and you just want to pop a pin into both of these sides as well. And we need to do this on all 4 corners of the bag. So once all 4 corners are pinned, we need to take this over to the sewing machine now and sew straight across all 4 of these edges. So once our bottom edges are sewn, we are now at turning through time. So remember the gap at the bottom that we left in the lining. We want to open that up, place your hand inside, right down to the bottom of your main fabric. You want to grab the end of the main fabric and just pull it through that hole. So you're pulling your main fabric through the lining. Just be really careful when you're doing this and make sure that you don't accidentally split your bottom lining seam. Just take a little bit of fiddling around, but it does come eventually. If you're struggling to get your bottom edges to sit nice and neat, what I like to do is just get my finger and just poke those edges into place. Fortunately, this does crease everything up, but don't worry too much, we can iron everything back into place later. The last thing we need to do is just to close up this hole in the lining. If you want to be super neat and tidy, you can actually hand stitch this together. So you can just run a slip stitch or a running stitch along the bottom. I'm going to be lazy today and just take this over to my sewing machine and sew it in place. Just make sure that you're enclosing your seam allowance there. When you've closed up that hole in the lining, you can push your lining fabric to the inside of your bag. Make sure your straight edges at the bottom are just matching up as best as they can. and that everything is sitting nice and neat and tidy. So I'm going to take this over to the ironing board now and just give everything a final press, and we're done. So our cosmetics or makeup bag is all done. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I absolutely love making these. I have another one all cut out and ready to sew, so that's what I'm going to be doing now. Once you get the hang of making these, I think you'll be knocking them out all the time. For birthday presents and for your own home as well. Of course, these don't only have to be used as makeup and cosmetics bags, they can be used for project bags. I have one that I keep my knitting in, so they really are handy to have all around the house. If you do make your own makeup bag using my pattern, I'd love you to let me know in the comments below or tag me over on Instagram and share a photo. I'd love to have a look and share it over there too. Please do consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I will be putting out more easy craft tutorials this year, and I really hope you'll join me for those too. If you have enjoyed the video, then please give it a like as well. Otherwise, everyone, take care. Thank you for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.